Daredevil born again, episode 5, with interest. And it's your boy Icon. A lot of interest here. It's your boy Icon with a Marvel television review for you, going over that Daredevil. And before we get started, hit that notification bell, like and or subscribe. Check out my other YouTube videos. Give me those watch time hours. I love you all. And let's get started with a little Matt Murdock. So this was a filler episode, and it was actually the best kind of filler episode. It was very entertaining. But I read in an article, like when the episode was over, and I was just like, okay, this was cool. I enjoyed this. I saw the symbol pop up for the next episode, and I'm like, next episode, like, this has to be a mistake. And then lo and behold, episode 6 started playing, and I was like, huh. So I went a lot, and at first I thought, I was like, wow, are we in the season finale? Like, are we only getting 6 episodes for the season? Because why would you give us 2 episodes back to back? So then I read an article online that said they put the 2 episodes back to back because they said that episode 5 and 6 was like a part 1, part 2 episode, and they wanted to give it, to the public back to back. And I was like, that's bullshit. Basically, y'all did that because episode 5 was a filler episode, and you didn't want to just have that one episode and people holding on to a bank episode like during the week. So you gave us something else after that, that had a little bit more oomph to it. Like I know those tricks, but and it was St. Patrick's Day because St. Patrick's Day had just concluded here in New York, and in the previous episode it was Latvian Heritage Day, and now it's St. Patrick's Day. So the writers of the show, they're either from these countries or they're really trying to keep in tune with the stuff that actually happens in New York City, and they're really trying to keep this in like real time, which is nice. It's nice to see. So now, but in this particular episode, apparently Matt's broke, and he was talking to his partner, and then she was just like, in the previously on, she was like, oh, we desperately need funds, and I'm like, I don't remember that episode. I don't remember her I don't remember her telling him they was broke. Like, I don't remember that. But then he ended up trying to go to the bank to try to get them some money because and the thing is, because of what they do, because they're, defense, attorneys, and because they do take a lot of pro bono cases and they do try to help the little guy, just like with Murdock and Nelson, there's not a lot of money in helping the little guy. So they don't really, especially with, even with the White Tiger situation, that was a big case. Like, they won that case. So it makes their firm look good from a PR standpoint. It gives them that name recognition that, hey, this firm, they got, this vigilante hero, they got him acquitted of, of murder charges. So it makes people want to go to them and say, like, hey, I trust you guys because you did this for him, you did this for me. But the problem is, because the guy got shot and he dead now he couldn't pay them, so they ain't making no money. So Matt does the thing, he goes to the bank, he tries to get a loan from the bank. And the person at the bank who was talking to him about getting the loan was none other than Yusuf Khan, Kamala Khan's father. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And, and it makes sense, too, because whenever we see anything involving Kamala Khan, her dad was always trying to sell people insurance. He was always trying to, like, sell something, like life insurance or something to somebody. So I was like, so the fact that he works at a bank, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. So the 2 of them were talking, and then he even mentions Kamala. He was like, oh, my daughter Kamala. But he didn't say that she was Miss Marvel. But he was just like, because they were talking, and he was like, where are you from, sir? And he was like, oh, he's like, I'm from Jersey City. And he's like, we even have our own superhero, Miss Marvel. And then he was just like, oh, my daughter Kamala. So he constantly kept talking about Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan. So Matt's not stupid. Like, he gonna put 2 and 2 together. He, like, before the episode was over, Matt knew that Kamala was Miss Marvel. So they ended up talking, and then Yusuf was like, unfortunately, he was like, because your clients don't pay. He said that is exactly why we cannot give you the loan, Mr. Murdock. So Murdock was just like, well, thank you. He said that was the nicest no that I ever got. And then Matt walked out of the bank. So as he was walking out of the bank, a group of Irish mobsters showed up, and in the previous episode, they, like, because of the whole thing that Vanessa did with the gangs, she did something. I forgot what she did. She did something, and one gang got upset. So Fist told them, to compensate for what you did, you got to pay these people $1.8 million or something. So the people obviously didn't want to pay the 1.8. So what they ended up doing was they went to the bank that that Yusuf Khan worked at. They went to the bank, and I presumed they were going to rob the bank to get the money to pay the debt. So they go into the bank, and then they even said something. They said, "Oh, let's do it for the boss." Or they said something about the boss, and then they made a fat joke. So obviously they're talking about the kingpin. So they go into the bank, and they start holding everybody hostage. Come to find out, there's no money in the bank vaults. Like there's no money there. So they weren't looking for money. They were looking for something specific, like a specific jewel. And I don't know who this jewel belonged. That's the part that like never. I watched this episode at least 3 or 4 times, and the one part that didn't make, or maybe I kept missing it because people text you or like you get phone calls and shit while you're trying to watch something. I don't understand. Like, did the jewel belong to Fisk? Like, did it belong to the rival organization that they owed the money to? Were they gonna take the jewel and sell it and pay those guys back with their own money? Like, I was confused about the significance of this jewel. But anyway, they were looking for this jewel. Matt ends up hearing the commotion going on in the bank, and then he goes back into the bank. He does the blind thing where he tries to pretend like he don't know what's going on. He just walks right into the bank, and then the guy in charge, the head guy in charge, he was like, "Well, somebody lock the fucking door." Like, Matt just walks right in, and then they're just like, "Oh, the solicitor, the blind man." So they put him down. And then, and then after that, they were just like, "Oh," he's like, "just sit there and keep tight." So they were just like, "Oh, we're looking for the bank manager." And then, they said that he's not here. Aldridge, he's the manager. They said Aldridge wasn't here. But then Yusuf Khan, he was like, "Oh, I can open the vault for you." So they were just like, "All right, get your ass downstairs and open this vault." Then this leads us to a returning character, Detective Kim, because in the very first episode, when we were in Josie's bar, the guy who now works for Matt Murdock's firm as like a private investigator, he was retiring from the police force, and Kim, Officer Kim or Detective Kim, that's who he was talking to at the bar, because she was the one that was like, "Oh, you're giving up. And this woman, like, Jesus, like, if I find out later on in this series that this woman is married to a man, I'm going to be legitimately surprised, because she showed up with like the dude aura. Like she did everything but chug a beer and like scratch her balls. I was just like her mannerisms was just, it's like, damn, like she was just, and she just looked like she just didn't want to be there. It was almost like when they were just like, "Oh, if you don't give us our demands, we're gonna shoot the hostages." Like, I swear to God, like the look on her face, she just wanted to be like, "Yo, fuck the hostages, like kill these motherfuckers." Like, she just didn't care. She's negotiating with them. She's like, "Yo, let me get 2 hostages as a sign of good faith." And then they were like, "Okay, fine." They were gonna give a woman and Matt Murdock, as the 2 hostages. The Matt was like, "No." He said the woman had a husband, take the husband. And the thing with the husband that kind of like got me, if that's your wife and you're the husband, you would, like, if they say like, "Oh, the woman can go," you would stand up and and tell your wife, "Yeah, get out of there, call the police, don't worry about me." Like, because your whole thing as a man is like, as long as your wife is safe, you're okay. Like, you just want your wife to be okay. He was like pulling on this woman's hand as though he was like, "No, don't leave me." And I'm like, bro, like, you should be happy that they're letting her go. You know what I'm saying? But Matt was just like, "Oh, I'll take the husband's place." And then they agreed to it. And then the couple left. So this episode, but the whole thing with the bank and the jewel and everything, this reminded me of the movie Inside Man. It gave me straight up like Inside Man vibes. And the whole time I was watching, I was like, okay, so basically this is the Marvel version of Inside Man, the movie with Denzel Washington. So I'm like, okay, I know how this goes. They're looking for the jewel. They're trying to get out. I said, somebody is going to try to escape dressed as a police officer. And I said, out of all the hostages, the quote unquote hostages, one of these hostages, preferably a woman, is pretending to be a hostage, and she's secretly working for for the Irish guys. And then there was a moment where Matt was standing up, and then there was this random woman. She was like, "Hey, buddy," she's like, "that was a noble thing you did for the married couple, but could you sit down because you're making me nervous over here?" And I was just like, okay, that's her. Like, clearly that's her. Like, the one who spoke, I was like, that's her. So they said, so they're just like, okay, so they grab Mr. Khan and they go downstairs to try to open the vault. Matt ends up telling them he had to pee, and then they brought Matt downstairs, in order for him to go to the bathroom, or the loo as they like to call it. And then that's when Matt got the drop on the guy that took him to the bathroom and beat his ass, and he took his mask. So he goes downstairs to the vault. He beats up the guy who's with Mr. Khan, and then him and Mr. Khan was just like, then he told Khan, he was like, we have to get into the vault and get whatever it is they're looking for just to buy us some time. So then Matt goes over to the safe, and then this is another thing, and I said this in the last review, I'm going to say this shit again, like, I understand this man is blind, and I understand he has like hypersensory powers and everything, but I'm like, in the last episode, he did a perfect bottle roll like down a storm drain. So I know his golf game must be like off the charts here, but I'm like, now he's over here cracking safes, and I'm like, okay, I get it that maybe, and I'll give him this, maybe you can hear the clicks inside the vault, inside the safe. You can hear the clicks to know which is the appropriate click that you need to open the safe. I get that, but no bit of hypersensory powery or whatever magicalness that Matt Murdock coops up, you would not like, even if you knew which numbers were the combination to the lock, there is no way you could have known the order in which to pick those numbers. I'm like, this is cap. I mean, I fucks with it though. But it's just like every episode he just performs like this crazy feat of strength, and I was just like, nah. I see what y'all doing, but nah. So he opens the safe, and then they go in, they take the item out, and it's like a jewel. Nobody ever says what the significance of the jewel is or what the purpose of the jewel, or who. They don't say who the jewel belongs to. They never even said who the deposit box belonged to. Matt goes upstairs, and then that's when the head Irish guy, he's just like, oh, he was like, if you don't sit down, Mr. Murdoch, I'm going to start killing the hostages. And then he points to the girl that's working with him, and then Matt heard outside, because Kim had lost the battle because she told a bad joke, that the SWAT team was about to come in. And then Matt was like, look, you're out of time. So he said, just let the hostages go and I'll give you the jewel. And he was like, how about I shoot you in the fucking head? And he's like, what the shite is going on around? So anyway, so then Matt threw him the jewel. He caught the jewel. And then the SWAT busted in. There's smoke everywhere. And now everybody fighting. Matt's taking down the bad guys. And then while he's taking down the bad guys, he overheard. The guy who was in charge, he heard him taking off his, like robbery clothes and switching into a police uniform. Check. And then as he puts the police uniform on, he passed the jewel to the female. This is when it was revealed that she was working with them. He passed the jewel to the female and said, make sure you get this to the boss. Check. Matt heard those two things. So he went outside. He chased the guy down. The first goon that he beat up, the guy had a red mask because all of them had different colored masks on. He took the red mask, he put the red mask over his own face, and then he went outside and whooped the guy's ass, beat him up, broke his leg, and then I guess took him to custody and he got locked up by the police. Then the woman, when we saw the woman leaving the bank, she went in the sack to basically look at the jewel. And then when she took the jewel out of the sack, there was a piece of like butterscotch candy in there. And then Matt at some point had switched the jewel in place of butterscotch candy. I don't know how he did. Like, here we go again. Because once the smoke started, they would have you believe he just immediately went outside and started beating up the Irish guy. But apparently, before he went outside and started beating up the Irish guy, he managed to switch the jewel for the butterscotch. And I'm like, this is what I'm saying. I'm like now Magic Murdoch can teleport. This is, I'm enjoying it, but sometimes he be doing stuff, and I'm like, huh? So he switched out the jewel, and then everybody but the woman got arrested. Everybody got arrested. They got locked up, and then, that was it. The next morning, Matt went back to the bank just to check on Mr. Khan. And then Mr. Khan was just like, we still can't help you, with the loan, Mr. Murdoch. But he was like, why don't you come over to my house and we can brainstorm on how your company can make more money. And he was like, my wife will make a delicious chakra. I think that's what he said. And then he was just like, oh, you can sit down with me and my family. And then he goes, oh, he said, I get to meet the famous Kamala Khan. And I'm like, yeah, he knows that she's Miss Marvel. And then he was just like, yeah. So he was like, he said, only if it involves a trip to Jersey City. So now it looks like, hopefully, we're going to get an episode where Matt Murdock goes to Jersey City to have this meeting, and he meets Kamala, and we get a Kamala and a Matt Murdock team up, which will be dope. I'm actually looking forward to that. And then, Matt says, you know what? Because Mr. Khan said that they never found the jewel. Then Matt was like, you know what? He said, I'm going to take you up on that dinner offer, and I'm going to try one of these butterscotches. And he takes the butterscotch, and he leaves. And then after that, Khan is sitting in the chair. He just happens to glance over at the butterscotch tray, and then he digs into the tray, and then he sees the jewel because Matt put the jewel in the dish when he took the candy. And then the way they did the music was perfect on that, because it was just Mr. Khan just like looking at the jewel like, how did this get in here? And then he thinks about Murdoch, like opening the safe and like fighting the bad guys and everything. And then he just looks over at Mr. Murdoch, and as soon as he looked over confused, it fades to black, and then you hear and I was like, that was done very well. That was how the episode ended, and thank you for tuning in. Daredevil Born Again is so good. It made me go back and start rewatching Arrow, because to me, Arrow is the GOAT of superhero television, And Daredevil reminds me of Arrow, like that ground and pound, like Oliver Queen putting arrows in people's ass and kicking ass and taking names. So I'm rewatching Arrow now because I'm enjoying, like, watching Daredevil Born Again is making me miss Arrow. So so definitely watch some Arrow if you guys can. Watch that Black Lightning, the Flash and all that. Keep watching Daredevil Born Again. Share your questions, comments, and concerns. Because like I said, this was a good episode. It was a filler episode, but it was a fun episode. Like, I definitely enjoyed it, and I want to hear your questions, comments, and concerns for this particular episode of Daredevil. Check out my other reviews because right now we're only reviewing Daredevil. I started playing WWE 2K25. I'm doing the My Rise story mode. So go on my YouTube channel, watch my videos for the My Rise because we're still playing it. So I got another video coming up today after I do my part 6 review for Daredevil Born Again. Check me out all over social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. And we'll keep bringing you some more of this superhero goodness, video games, action, adventure, and everything in between. So that was it, guys. So thank you for tuning in. So till episode 6 for some more Daredevil action, check out that butterscotch. And we're out this bitch!